Are you involved in a business or thinking about starting one? Do you know there may be environmental impacts from business activities? According to the Environmental Protection Act of 1996, businesses such as gas stations, rice mills, large-scale agriculture and poultry farms, large-scale mining and forestry operations, hotels, and resorts must be authorized. Persons proposing any of these activities need to submit an application for environmental authorization to the EPA.
Miss Sonia, wait, I want to ask you something.
Oh gosh,
Morning, Miss Sonia.
Morning, Miss Cheryl. I'm late for work.
I noticed the other day y'all had a big campaign with them police officers, so shutting down them people barbecue, wedding, dance. Man, how y'all expect these people to make money and survive?
Oh, Miss Cheryl, that is far from the truth. The EPA and the Guyana Police Force are actually working together to ensure that persons who conduct certain businesses and activities are authorized. We've tried to allow them to adhere to the noise regulations.
Well, this gonna be a new law. What law is this?
These laws were always in place. It's now that we're getting all these complaints at the agency, we are trying to enforce them. The Environmental Protection Act has been in place since 1996, and it states that persons and businesses must apply for environmental authorization before operating a sound-making device.
Well, girl, I never know this thing is prior to the law.
So if you're keeping a barbecue or an open-air function, like a wedding or a concert, especially in your community, right, and you're playing a music system, you have to apply for a short-term noise permit. And for persons that operate in a business and you got generators and stuff, you have to apply for a long-term permit. And that is applicable to bars and hotspots and clubs also.
Well, now that you explain it, I understand it. It's unfair to the elderly, sick people, and even them little children.
That is correct. According to the World Health Organization, loud noise can cause stress, sleep deprivation, and hearing impairment. And I'm sure you wouldn't want that.
Oh, now I understand. Thank you for explaining it, Miss Sonia.
For more information, you can contact the EPA at 225-5471 or visit our office at Ganji Street, North Sophia, Georgetown.
At the Environmental Protection Agency, we believe that the environment is everybody's business. We can start caring for our planet by becoming more environmentally friendly in our everyday actions. Here's what you can do: dispose of waste in a garbage bin, clean our drains, yards, and carpets regularly, take a reusable shopping bag to the market, support local butchers and farmers to reduce packaged waste, plant a kitchen garden, trees and flowers, compost your organic waste, conserve water and electricity, carry a reusable water bottle. These little acts are good for your health and that of the environment. Remember, healthy people work better and achieve more, and together, small actions make a big difference. For further information on how you can help, please contact the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, Ganji Street, Sophia, or telephone us at 225-5467. You can also visit our website, epagana.org, or our Facebook and Instagram pages.
Hello and welcome to The Environment Matters, a monthly production of the Environmental Protection Agency in Guyana, where we explore the work of the agency in fulfilling its mandate of environmental management and biodiversity conservation. I am your hostess, Aretha Ford. Our work at the agency does not end when permits are issued. Our officers are consistently on the ground conducting compliance checks on various operations. In fact, the Environmental Protection Act mandates that we prevent or control pollution, monitor and coordinate trends in the use of natural resources and their impact on the environment, among other things. In environmental management, monitoring is done both by the regulator, that's us, and the operator, that's you, the permit holder. Since the focus of this program is on the work of the EPA, we will zero in on remote monitoring. To lead us in that discussion is Miss Reshana Thomas, who is the GIS Specialist at the EPA. So Reshana is no stranger to the program. If you tuned into our January episode, she would have given a little snippet of what her work entails here at the EPA. So Reshana, welcome back to the Environment Matters.
Thank you, Arita. Hello, everyone.
All right, so before we go into our discussion on monitoring and remote monitoring, give us a background on GIS, since this topic might be something that is fairly new to our audience.
Okay. Thank you for having me again, Arita. So GIS is not a new concept. It's by no means a new term either that has been used. GIS became mainstream globally like in the early 1980s, and since the early 1990s there have been strides in Guyana to digitally transform how we store and how we use data sets in Guyana. A GIS in its simplest form is like a computer-based system that you can use to store, analyze, manipulate, and output or visualize your data sets. Any functioning GIS has like about 5 components, and we are dealing with computer and systems. So you will have a hardware component, which is your monitors, your CPUs, etc. And the software component, which is some are open source, some we have to buy. And then there's the data sets that we put into this GIS, and these data sets are what we will manipulate and analyze to come up with our decision making. And there's also what I think are the 2 most important components. Not that any component is more important than the other. I think that you have the people who are the trained personnel that can use this program. And coupled with the people, we have the methodologies, because what are we working with if not methods? So GIS is fun, it's exciting. In a snippet, it's a decision-making tool that we use.
Okay, so when I describe GIS or Geographical Information Systems to people, I try to make it as simple as possible, and I say it's where technology meets, or computers meet geography, because really what we try to do is map out, the Earth's features, but GIS has evolved to be so much more. So did I get that correct?
Yes.
Was I telling people the wrong thing all along? Great. Good. So now that we have a basic understanding of what GIS is, manipulating programs on computers to get a specific set of data, I just want to mention that the Technical Services Department at the EPA is primarily responsible for monitoring environmental parameters. So environmental parameters include things like air quality, and when we talk about air quality, we talk about volatile organic chemicals, or VOC. We talk about particulate matter, which we will share a little bit later on in the program. We talk about nitrous oxides, environmental parameters in water quality, whether it's pH, turbidity, the clearness of our water source. And we also monitor radiation levels, among other things, at the agency. And these activities all occur on the ground. So it entails officers having to plan trip, pack equipment, ensure that all equipment is calibrated and working well, and then going out to a location that is sometimes remote, right? Having to stay in camps or somewhere strange, and then having to come back and analyze all this data. So how does GIS now come into monitoring? And then we'll talk about remote monitoring.
Right. So important to note is that GIS is an ever-evolving technology, and that's what's so exciting about it. Because some of the things I learned when I started doing GIS are obsolete now. Those are not the methods that we're using anymore. And I like that you mentioned that we're using multiple data sets. So for example, GIS can be used as a decision-making tool to help one plan those routes for the trip, or like even when you are there, you can collect data, and you collect like 3 or 4 different data sets, and then we overlay these, and then we come up with something that we didn't have before. This is new information. So that's some of the ways that GIS can help in monitoring.
All right, so what's the simplest form of GIS that we use at the agency, and then let's bring it across the range to what is the most complicated form of GIS that we use.
So because I would say all components of a GIS have to be present for it to be a GIS. So I don't think any one of the component or any one aspect of it is the simplest one. But I think the most user-friendly one is how we look at air quality spatially and see what's happening within that 20-mile radius from one monitor. And then it goes as complicated as us trying to drive satellites to monitor a particular area of interest within a particular window, and then overlaying that with other data sets to really make a decision.
All right, so if you're a bit lost, don't worry. We'll show you exactly what we're talking about. And so I'm glad that you talked about manipulating satellites. So that brings us now to remote monitoring. So what is remote monitoring, and how do we monitor operations from the office here at the EPA?
Right. So here at EPA, we're fortunate enough to be able to have not just the technology, but we have a department that is skilled in not just GIS, but also remote sensing. Now, remote sensing in its simplest form is observing an object without being in physical contact with it. And we utilize GIS and remote sensing in combination to come up with our remote monitoring techniques here at the EPA. So, like you mentioned, Guyana is such a vast country, and there are areas in Guyana that are not easy to traverse. Even if we've issued a permit for an activity to develop in this area, it doesn't mean that we can go there every week or every day to monitor it. One, it's not financially feasible, the physical wear and tear on our equipment and on our personnel, and also the cost. The cost is a big factor there, and also the frequency of monitoring too. So remote sensing or remote monitoring is advantageous in that, one, you can monitor an area or a developmental site without being in physical contact with it. You save money, you save time, and you are also able to up the frequency of monitoring of that area too. So here at the EPA, we monitor both on and offshore activities remotely. There are parameters such as air quality that we monitor via remote access to those sensors, or to the data from those sensors. We have leveraged the use of open source satellite imagery, and also we have paid for some subscriptions to services. When we combine our open source availability with what we're paid for, you find that we have this holistic view of what's happening on the land as well as what's happening offshore as well.
Yeah, that sounds pretty exciting, and I can tell you it is. Once you've learned to manipulate the data and to look at maps in an entirely different way, to be able to see different aspects of geological features within Guyana, it's very exciting. I think I'm nerding out here on GIS. So what then, I know you would have probably brought it out, but what are the benefits of remote monitoring? We talked about, saving time, saving funding that can be diverted to other aspects of our operations, and the wear and tear on our vehicles, on just the staff too. But what are some other benefits of remote monitoring?
So with monitoring the environment and with monitoring these sensitive parameters, time is always of the essence. So you don't want to wait until you're able to send a team somewhere that may take them 3 days to get to make a decision on what the action should be or what the mitigatory measures should be. In the worst case scenario, if there is an event, remote sensing helps us to get near real-time alerts. The systems we've set up here have helped us to be aware and alert, sometimes even before the developer is aware of an event. And then we can lead the charge in doing environmental cleanup or environmental damage mitigation.
Okay, wonderful. So that brings us to an ad break, and I encourage you to stay tuned because I'm very excited, and I'm sure Reshana is as well, to share with you how we monitor remotely at the EPA.
Do you have an environmental complaint? Then the Environmental Protection Agency wishes to advise that you can report an environmental complaint at the agency via one of the following. You can call our 24-hour hotline number at 225-5469, or you can drop us an email at complaints@epaguyana.org. Or you can message us on our Facebook page at EPA Guyana, or you can message us directly on Instagram at EPAGY. Please note, when submitting an environmental complaint, you would need to submit the following: name of complainant, that is the person who is making the complaint, the address of that person, a contact number, as well as the alleged polluter, a name for them, or a name of their business, their location, and the nature of the complaint. For further information, you can visit our agency's head office at Ganji Street, Sophia, or you can visit one of the regional offices to make your environmental complaint. You can visit our WIM office in the Quarantine or our Linden office in the Lynn Building, Mackenzie, Linden. Please note that all information collected from the public will be treated with the strictest confidence. However, complainants should be willing to attend court and testify should the matter require legal action.
At the Environmental Protection Agency, we believe that the environment is everybody's business. We can start caring for our planet by becoming more environmentally friendly in our everyday actions. Here's what you can do: dispose of waste in a garbage bin, clean our drains, yards, and carpets regularly, take a reusable shopping bag to the market, support local butchers and farmers to reduce packaged waste, plant a kitchen garden, trees and flowers, compost your organic waste, conserve water and electricity, carry a reusable water bottle. These little acts are good for your health and that of the environment. Remember, healthy people work better and achieve more, and together, small actions make a big difference. For further information on how you can help, please contact the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, Ganji Street, Sophia, or telephone us at 225-5467. You can also visit our website, epaguyana.org, or our Facebook and Instagram pages.
Attention all miners. Mining is important to Guyana's development, and so is our biodiversity. Practice smart mining. Use a retort, dispose of your waste properly, manage your tailings well, and reclaim mined out areas. Remember, improper mining is a threat to your health, biodiversity, and a hindrance to prosperity. A message from the Environmental Protection Agency and Ministry of Natural Resources with funding from GEF through the United Nations Development Program.
Welcome back to The Environment Matters. If you're now joining us, in this month's episode, we're talking about EPA's remote monitoring capabilities. And Ms. Reshana Thomas, the GIS Specialist at the EPA, was sharing with us what is GIS and how EPA uses remote monitoring to boost its capabilities. In this half of the program, we welcome you to EPA's monitoring room, and we'll share with you some of what we're doing to help protect the environment. So Reshana,
Hi,
tell us a
Rita.
bit about the setup in here.
Okay, so here we have 5 monitors and we are monitoring remotely a number of different parameters. First and most exciting is the air. Well, we all breathe air. We're all interested in the quality of air that we breathe. And here at the agency, we would have received a lot of complaints over time about air pollution coming from spray painting workshops, furniture manufacturing workshops, stack emissions from factories, etc. The EPA, through the Technical Services Department, and more specifically the Research and Development and Analytics Unit, we were able to secure 5 air quality monitors. These air quality monitors are deployed at 5 locations across the country. One of them atop this very building. Now these air quality monitors not just tells us what the air quality is at the site of deployment, but via access that we have right now, it tells us in real time what the air quality is within a 20-mile radius of where that sensor would have been placed. So let's say, for example, we're looking at the air quality at Linden. We're looking at our remote capabilities. Let's see what's happening over at Linden. And important to note is that the air quality in Guyana along the coast and at Linden are all within either the good range according to WHO standards, an AQI of 50 or less, or an AQI just about over 50, which is still moderate. And it is not unhealthy for sensitive groups or unhealthy or hazardous. It is good or moderate. And when we compare that to the world AQI ranking, and you see what the most polluted cities are, you see that these are all over the 100. They're in the orange or red zones. We're nowhere there here in Guyana.
Yes, so that's one of the things that I appreciate most about this program because, because of maybe how close we are to a particular operation, we might feel, oh, this air is so terrible, the quality of the air is not good. But when we look at where we are in comparison to other parts of the world, then we get a sense of, okay, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Right. So I really appreciate the air quality index ranking. And, if you go to IQ Air, you're able to see this information as well.
It is. And it's also tethered to EPA's website. We have a tab on our website called Air Quality Monitoring. You click on that tab, you will get real-time access to the live feed data from all these monitors.
Yes, so I think this is one of the instances where it's good that we're not at the top of the rankings, right?
That is true. I will just show you a little bit about, let's say, we're looking remotely again. We don't want to look at the one above us. Let's look at what's happening over in WIM. So the air quality index over at WIM is 29. 29 falls within the good range as it is below 50. Here we can see that the air quality index is good and that the PM 2.5 is just about 7 microgram per meter cube.
Yes. So when we talked about particulate matter very early up in the program, and particulate matter is one of those environmental parameters in air quality that we are concerned about. And so this gives us a pretty good idea of what the different levels of the types of particulate matter are at a particular location.
That is true. And then also importantly is that we can see an hourly breakdown of what the air quality is like. We can also get historical breakdown by the day. So you can go back in time and look at trends and emerging patterns, etc. And these all help feed into our decision making here at the agency. Should we notice that in a particular area the air quality is below acceptable standards for a prolonged period of time, we will issue a public notice to that effect. Or we will investigate what are the root causes of this occurrence.
Right, and indeed, the EPA has come a very long way in terms of how we monitor the parameters, different parameters in the environment. I mean, we're celebrating 26 years as an agency, and I do believe that these programs and this setup that we have here shows that we're consistently working towards improving how we do things at the EPA. All right. So what else do we have with regards to air quality?
Well, we have the live feed from the 5 monitors here that you can see. So this is available. You can download the Air Visual app and you can have this on your phone, or you can go to our website and you can publicly view this data set as well.
Okay, so these air quality sensors, where are they placed? Aside from Georgetown and WIM, as you can see, where else are they
Right,
placed?
so we have one in Linden, we have one on the Essequibo Coast at Hampton Court, we have one within that Eccles Macdum developmental area, and one above here and one in Linden.
Okay, wonderful. So let's go to the next screen, and can you explain what is going on here?
Okay, so this is I think one of my favorite screens, because this is a perfect example of how we have married remote sensing and GIS together to help us monitor a particular interest. So this here, what you're looking at, is called the cerulean. The cerulean is an experimental algorithm that was written to automatically process satellite imagery, specifically Sentinel-1 satellite imagery. Now, Sentinel-1 satellite imagery is a SAR product. SAR meaning it's a synthetic aperture radar product. That means, that simply means that radar, meaning that it is not, the monitoring would not be inhibited by clouds. Here in Guyana, if you look at any satellite imagery, you will see we have abundant cloud coverage. We are a rainforest covered country, so there's all this condensation and there will be all these clouds. Now, if you're visually monitoring a parameter, you can't always see that. So remote sensing has evolved to a place where there's technology that the pulse can penetrate this cloud, so you're still able to monitor that area of interest. And that is what Sentinel-1 does across the world. But for Guyana, we have tailored our monitoring to say, for our area, which is our exclusive economic zone, we would like the cerulean to process all the Sentinel-1 imagery collected over that area, and to tell us whether there has been an oil spill or an oil slick detection. If there is an oil spill or an oil slick detection, we would be able to get a report that looks something like this. So the report will tell us, the report will not only tell us where and when, the report will also help us to know what imagery this was used to make this detection, and also to tell us what the extent of the observation is. Now, the cerulean, because it's a SAR product, it can only tell us if there is a spill or a slick detection, when and where, and that is a lot of information. But here at EPA, we want to go beyond that. We want to know what caused that, what is the root cause of that event. And because of that, we have combined this cerulean with a subscription to marine traffic. And that's what you'll see on our third monitor here. Okay. So marine traffic not only tells us where vessels are offshore in real time, but using a backtracking tool or a route tracking tool, we were able to say within this particular area of interest what vessels pass through that route.
Okay, so we can see here the movement of vessels.
Yes, we can.
From Port Georgetown.
Right, and then you can even see that some of them have updated 6 minutes ago via satellite their location as they traverse through our water. So this helps us with that chain of custody for accountability and for holding any defaulters responsible, should there be.
I look at the different colors and I can imagine that these are the different types of
right. So here we would have some tugs or special craft, some supply vessels, some fishing vessels. We have tankers that are taking oil away. We have 2 moored FPSOs offshore.
Okay, that's amazing. It really is.
Yes. So these are just some of the ways that we are looking to like we mentioned earlier, with remote sensing is beneficial in that it allows you to monitor this vast area that would be virtually impossible to monitor on the ground. However, with the click of a button, we're able to monitor the entire exclusive economic zone without really having to be out there in the field and in real time too. So these all help to feed into our rigid monitoring program and our rigid enforcement of the permit conditions that we set
And so
up.
I come back to the second screen. So is it possible for us to ask the program to look at what is going on onshore? Because we ask for data for offshore activities, but can we monitor what's going on onshore, let's say in Region 7, where there are lots of mining activities occurring?
Yes, so when we get to the last screen, I'll show you how we leverage satellite imagery onshore for monitoring of mining and especially forestry developmental activities.
Okay.
So over here, like I was mentioning before, if you look closely at the screen, you can see there's massive cloud cover. And so we're using a combination of data sets from the VIIRS nighttime satellite, Aqua, MODIS, and NOAA 20 satellites. Now, if these were optical satellites and we were looking to monitor anything in this area, it would be almost impossible to see what's happening.
Indeed it would. That's a lot of
right. But these satellites are based on radar technology that can penetrate cloud. Let's go to today because we're talking real time. So today, the 9th of June 2022, we use this data set to monitor fire and thermal anomalies, both on and offshore.
So if basically heat signatures.
Heat signatures. So if there are some detected onshore, we would say, look at the location. If it falls within a forestry concession or if it looks like it's within a forested area, we would get on the phone or alert forestry to say, look, we've detected that there is a persistent heat source here. Or we would alert the fire service or the NDCs to say, you know what's happening, what's causing this to be observed from satellites in space.
Okay.
But interestingly here at the EPA too, we can use these capabilities to look at what's happening offshore as well. So we know that this is the site of this is within the LISA developmental field within the Stabroek block. And this particular location is correlated to the LISA Destiny FPSO. So if there is a heat signature from the LISA Destiny FPSO, we're able to detect that and measure that. So this detection came in around to the location, and we're able to see the brightness, temperature, and the radiative power of this event. The radiative power helps us to determine the emissions level and the significance of this event. All right, so these are data sets that are completely independent of the EPA or the developer. And then we are seeing when this event was detected. We're able to see the time, the location, and the magnitude of that event. So we're excited about this, not just for monitoring flaring offshore, but also for detection of heat signatures and thermal anomalies onshore Guyana as well.
Yeah, so I think that our audience can appreciate, Reshana, that the sources of our data are completely independent of the operator.
Right, yes.
And so it's also by trusted sources, because who doesn't trust NASA? And so audience, last but not least, we come to the dashboard that is of interest to the majority of Guyanese, and that is one that allows us to monitor the operations of EEPGL, popularly known as ExxonMobil. And so Reshana, just take us through what this dashboard is about and what we're able to see.
Okay, so interestingly, this dashboard is all along we've been showing you data sets that we have, or data sets from sensors or satellite products that we have acquired from a third party. But of course, in some instances, there are some data sets that you can only get from the people who make them themselves, and these data sets would come from a particular developer. And to develop a robust monitoring system for an operation of interest, you would need input from the developer, of course. Now, this Government of Guyana data dashboard is shared with us as well as 3 other agencies within the government. This dashboard allows us to, in real time, monitor production, seawater discharges, gas reinjection, power generation, issues related to safety, health and environment, tank inventories, and flare management. Now, here at the EPA, of particular interest to us, the tabs that we would monitor most frequently are what's happening with the safety, health and environmental parameters. And of course, because flare management falls under our purview, we also monitor what happens with the flare management. So for example, here you can see a schematic of what happens with the high pressure flare header and the low pressure flare headers. And this tells you exactly what's happening with the gas on board this FPSO, which vaults are open, which separators are open, which reinjectors are operational. And so we have, you would see here, a logbook where the Oil and Gas Department would come at different times during different days to do their routine monitoring, and everyone checks in and out, and we're able to correlate this data with what's submitted, what we are seeing in real time, with also what we are acquiring independently. That is true. So this is the data dashboard that we get from the developer. The most exciting part of this monitoring room for me is because all along I've showed you a dot or a line on a screen or a pinpoint here, or even here I'm showing you a schematic. But as a kid growing up reading books, I would always like pictures in it, and I would hold my interest the most. Where possible, we have tried to get visuals. Now the visuals aren't because, oh well, Reshana likes pictures or the EPA likes looking at pictures, but the visuals help us to see the picture sometimes, and sometimes that helps you to see if there is something that you probably didn't even think you needed to monitor, but maybe it is of interest. Or sometimes, almost all the time, it helps us to see that there are no suspicious activities visible within this developmental area.
Yes, and of course in monitoring we say you can't monitor what you can't see.
Right, and also remember, all of these different satellites and sensors are monitoring, or they're developed to look for one thing. This one's looking for heat, that one's looking for oil spill or slick, the other one's looking for air quality. But what if there is a parameter that we don't have a satellite trained to pick up and give us an alert? This is where the visual monitoring is especially beneficial. We get one of these alerts every 18 hours, and so we're able to become friends with these marine vessels. Down here we can see the Lights of Destiny, a visualization of the Lights of Destiny, and here the flare vent is active. The detects not only tell us, oh look, a ship, it tells us what the vessel's name is, what the call sign is, what the flag is, and we can also measure around it, etc. So this is the most exciting part of this job to me. And we can also drive these satellites. So for example, if we see something next to a vessel that's not captured in this image, we may say perhaps we can use another satellite, or we can ask via our access that we have at the EPA, we call that tasking. We can task a specific satellite to capture a specific area or an angle for us specifically if need be.
Alright, so there you have it, folks, the EPA's remote monitoring capabilities, and this of course is coupled by visits to the operator both onshore and offshore. So it's not that we sit in our offices and we rely on these data sets and these satellites to do the work for us. So Reshana, thank you so much for sharing with the public information that they need to know on the EPA's boosted remote monitoring capabilities. And that, folks, brings us to the end of our show. Remember to stay connected to the EPA. We're on social media. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel to be able to view this program and more episodes. It's also being broadcast on your favorite station, NCN Channel 11. Remember to pick up a copy of the Sunday Times or the Guyana Chronicle, or you can get both. Tune into our television interviews on Guyana Today and our radio interviews across the country, Radio Bartka, Radio Mabaruma, Lethem, and the list goes on. Remember to stay safe, everyone, respect each other and the environment. See you until next time.
Come around, please.
Morning. My name is Deborah. I just want to get some information.
Good morning. I am Odessa Duncan, Senior Environmental Officer. How may I assist you today?
Tell me something. They got this man next door by me breaking on this big building, and it's bare asbestos in the roof. I could remember hearing on your TV program that asbestos is dangerous to human health and the environment.
This is correct. The Environmental Protection Act states that any person or facility that is storing, treating, transporting, and or disposing of hazardous waste material must be authorized by the EPA to do so.
Oh, but it's now I'm really hearing about this hazardous waste thing. Tell me something more.
Hazardous waste are waste material with properties that are dangerous or capable of having a harmful effect on human health and the environment, including things like paint, fertilizers, and pesticides, waste oil, and asbestos. These things have the potential to cause cancer, birth defects, kidney failure, and reproductive impairment, with children being at the highest risk. The environmental authorization in this case gives the legal right to transport, store, and dispose of this material in accordance with the EPA Act Chapter 2005 Laws of Guyana. This ensures you and your operation and your process is safe for the environment and human health.
So you mean to tell me that all them leftover Christmas paint that I got on in my kitchen sink, I need authorization from EPA to get rid of it?
No, Miss Deborah. These items, once used for household purposes, does not require environmental authorization from the EPA. However, you should still take necessary steps to ensure that these materials are stored and disposed of in an environmentally safe manner.
Thank you so much for the information. I go in and tell him that he needs an environmental authorization. Thank you.